allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for coming. We have the room set up this way, not because we don't like the normal way it's set up, but just to expedite the switch when we go to the annual meeting in half an hour. Our first order of business is our citizens forum. Is there anyone wishing to comment at this time? All right, seeing none, it brings us to our consent agenda. Is there any objection to the items on the consent agenda? That's approved by unanimous consent. Our superintendent update.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. We received a washer and dryer from Fox Community Credit Union through Lynn Hoppensberger. I'm sorry if I'm totally killing that name. From Fox Community Credit Union and John Benberg. I've known John a long time. He's the head of the Boys and Girls Club of New Day. I don't know if we found a spot for Judy.
I'm working
Jill,
on that, yeah.
You're working on it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew somebody was working on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. So we're gonna have a place that'll get used, and so it's very nice of them to do that. I met, just to give you a little, so I got a little past history on Pulaski. I met with John Wegman and Tom Joyner on Monday. Had a very interesting conversation about Pulaski and their remembrance of past history and their remembrance of annual meetings was probably the dominant topic of conversation because they had some interesting, they were, and Barb, you were probably the only one on board at that time when some of those interesting meetings occurred.
I was not on board when they were superintendents, but yes.
Oh, well. And then this week we had our first what do we call it, coffee in the morning with the superintendent, and we had the Pulaski Shell Station that Bob set up, and Rock and Pam, is it Mangus, am I saying that right? Manigal, I'm sorry, apologize back there, I know they're here tonight. Manigal, it's right in front of me. But it was a really nice conversation. All of a sudden the time was up, so we ended up sharing stories back and forth, so that was really nice. A couple of things that I've been working on, safety. We had a meeting yesterday with the whole leadership committee, so it was basically everybody in this room, and there were probably a couple other ones added to it. Pat did a great job of leading us through some of the important discussion points that we had regarding safety. I think a lot of questions came out, not necessarily bad questions or things that were, but just to make sure that we're clarified. I think we're in really good shape, but we need to clean up some things regarding safety with our policies and procedures. I would call it not board policies, but our procedures within the district, and do a better, maybe communicate a little bit better on some of those things, and I think we'll be in really good shape. So I was thankful Pat taking the lead with that. We've met a couple times already on that, and we'll probably end up meeting a couple more times regarding safety. Badges, we're going to require all the staff to wear badges. We're just kind of cleaning that all up with how each building, because we have, I think, 3 different photographers, and kind of coordinate that, and some already had the badges made, some didn't, and so it's just taking us a little bit of time to get that. We have 3 options for how they want to hang it, it's because we have different people with different issues that how it wants to be demonstrated. But I think it's really important that, size of this district, any district for that matter, and the size of Pulaski, that every adult is identified when they walk in, and so, including, if you visit, you're going to have a badge of some kind in one building, substitute teachers and everybody else. So I would say October 1st is kind of the rough day that we're going to have everybody with badges.
Is the badge just a picture to identify you?
Yeah.
Or is it going to replace the key fobs?
It is not going to replace the key fobs at this time.
Okay.
I was happy, Jeremy, just to get to this point this year. I think, and even we talked that maybe we'll find out the badges weren't quite what we wanted to design, then we got next summer to kind of re-look at them and get them maybe better coordinated. Just, I probably introduced it too late to do as all the things that we want to do. But I'm really pleased that we're going to move that road. We're purchasing some software. Our tech committee, tech people I should say, are 2 people here that are kind of leading that parade with regarding having software that makes sure that when people are using our equipment or our software, that we can track that if we need to and go back and look if there's anything said inappropriately or that even more importantly than appropriately, if anybody makes a threat, either about to others or about themselves, it'll be 24/7. So there'll be live people watching over the weekend that if one of our students got on one of our devices and made some type of threat about themselves or others, that it would be tracked and there'd be phone calls made. And so, and it's, includes staff too, obviously, because it'll track everybody's. It doesn't mean we have Big Brother watching every step, but there'll be ways it'll be flagged and then notifications will go out after that. Do you guys want to add anything? Did I miss something? Or?
Nope, it will also provide a home filter for our families and parents the ability to have more control over that device when it's at home, which is something they've been asking for.
And maybe once we get set up, we can give it a real short demo to the
Yep.
board, but we're not ready for that either. I'd say one of the most immediate things that regarding safety, and then I'm off safety, is the Hillcrest crosswalk. I think if there's anything more immediate needed, it'd be that. But you're gonna hear about more tonight, so I'm gonna skip over that. Facilities, just want you to know, we've given the schools and departments a month to kind of come up with priorities, short-term and long-term, of what they might need facility-wise, looking, again, short-term, looking long-term. I'm gonna accumulate all that, I mean, with others' help, not just myself. And then we'll prioritize it. Eventually I'll come back again, like I told you, I'll come back with the board and report to that. That's one of the steps we're doing. Nick Phillips and I are meeting with every municipality, basically from the village east. I think we met with 3 of them already. I got another one tomorrow, and I think another one Friday. So we did Village of Pulaski, Chase, Hobart, Pittsfield, and Little Swamico, all will be done by Friday. We meet with them, and we're looking at their maps, and then also taking actual tours and looking at future building space, whether that's single homes or whether that's apartments, to get an idea of what the future growth is gonna be for short-term and long-term. So, that's been really interesting. It's been really good for me, because I get a better idea of the district that way too, from my point of view, from this side of the county, which I had not been all that familiar with. A couple other quick things, 360 group, I got a list of teachers that are interested in participating. I gotta work with administrators and actually either pare that down or get some suggestions from them. So I haven't done that yet, but we are moving along with that process. And I haven't started anything with the administrative group yet, but we have started the 360 group of teachers and at least started communicating. And then we have our first calendar meeting coming up, and I want to get that completed into the board by the December meeting, just so if we're going to go out, we have some time for parents to make some adjustments for the next school year. So I hope that meets your guys' timeline. And I think that's it.
Any questions?
Tony, in your discussions with Hobart and Pittsfield, any preliminary indication on the position for the interchange project there with the recent acquisition of that and what that means for timing and access, et cetera?
Well, they think, and Nick heard more, and I think Nick's actually a little more expert at it than I am, but what I heard, Nick, either correct me or.
The money's in the bank to do it, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen year 21?
21.
21. And I think it'll still happen, even though there was some purchase of the land.
In the same location they feel it's gonna happen?
That's what we heard.
Okay, thank
He
you.
said it will happen.
Talking about you?
Well, the Overland interchange and that,
Yeah.
with that, so.
Oh,
By Maplewood.
Pardon?
By Maplewood.
Yeah. The south side, there was an acquisition there, 79 acres to prevent the interchange most likely. So if they're gonna relocate it or whatever, but just to get access on the south side of the highway for all those people.
He's pretty confident it was gonna occur.
We've been counting on it, so.
So,
All right, thanks, Tony.
yeah.
Now we have an update on the parents and community pillar. And Mark is leading this one. Lisa's getting up.
No, yeah, you're good. I know that a lot of you gave up a lot of part of your evening board meeting, but mostly you're coming here to see this. So I will do my best not to disappoint. Our pillar, and when I say our, I'm talking about Janelle Batten, Bob Van Eckendorf, and Curtis Suffolk, and myself. We're in the group of parents and community. When we got together, the biggest thing that we struggled with is parent and community is different to all of us. with my community group, well, I'll tell you that as we go on. We'll start first with Curtis's community and parent group. So he's talking about basically his families, the families that go along with his school. And they communicate out to them really well. They do different things. They use Twitter, they use Facebook, they use a lot of different things. They use Seesaw is another thing that they use. And then there's the secondary things that happen, like with Pulaski News and different things like that, that end up covering a lot of what they're doing. But they have a wonderful rapport. They have a lot of things that bring community members in. So you can see, this is what Curtis shared with his families, or with his staff last year when they went through and did it. But you can see, we have different step workers that are working, that are coming in. We have a gentleman down in the bottom, you gotta remind me what that was.
The Rock Man.
So that's Rock?
That's the Rock Man. No, different Rock Man.
Different. Okay. I thought you talked about
Rock
Deep Rock.
Man, Rock Man, I don't think get a trademark soon enough.
Okay, so. But we do have, another one is we do have Rock Manigault that does every year with our fourth graders. So our fourth graders go over to the Historical Society museum there, and Rock talks about the history of Pulaski and tells them, and does a great presentation for them. So there's a lot of things that our elementary schools do, getting kids out into the community and getting the community to come back in. Another one that he has, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, those are the crossing guards that work throughout our village. In the middle, if you remember Jill Miller, longtime teacher here, she comes back in, goes and reads to the kids and does different things. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see a firefighter that's with us, some parents that are in here. So they do a great job of engaging what Curtis calls his community. So that's his community and his parents, okay? Then all of a sudden you get to PACE, and PACE has got all these different things that we do. So if you start looking at that, you can see, yep, we have some adult classes. Tonight, I believe, right now, we got a boys boot camp going on. So if anybody's really tired or they need some energy, you could go there and have Dennis Bogatz yell at you and tell you how much better shape you should be in. We have a bunch of different youth sports stuff. We have our before and after school programs that are beginning to just mushroom. But a lot of those have to do with kids, but then you'll see a lot of other things like our community pantry that we have, our education foundation, our United Foundation that we have. So there's a number of different things that PACE does, and it touches a totally different community. The thing that we kept on coming back to though as we were talking is, if you can picture the house at 243 William Street in Pulaski, none of us can right now, but you just have to imagine with me. There's a lady living there, and she lives alone, and she's 74 years old. How do we connect with her? How do we get to that person and tell them what we're doing in this community? And that helps, like what Tony has been talking a lot about as he's gotten here. I'm sorry I called him Tony, I have trouble with Mr. Cobham, but.
Sir.
Sir. What he's been talking about is when things happen, he said, I'm always concerned about safety and about kids and everything else, but I also have to be thinking about the district and what the PR part of it is that goes with it as well. That's the same thing. When we're doing things, we want our community, we want our parents to know what's going on, we want our people to be involved, but we also have to start talking to people that are not necessarily part of our district, but that are still in our district and are part of what we're doing. Some of the things that we also have, of course, are Pulaski News, that was Bob, and you see a lot of things that are in there that have nothing to do with our school, and you have a lot of things that have to do with our school. So he reaches, again, another demographic, another part of our community and another group of our parents that maybe don't get reached. And then we have something, and I use the Field of Dreams as an example. So Janelle did an incredible job of making it where all of a sudden our community became in action. So now our community actually had a chance to come back to our schools and say, I can be part of this. So we had people that actually helped with some of the building. We had people that helped with maybe some cleaning up or some finishing up when we got to the end of it. We had people that just donated money. A lot of people had a lot of different ways that they could get involved in that project. And so we had a number of things that we had. But it still beckons that call of, what about that lady at 243 William Street? How do we get to those people? So as we started to talk, that's what we did. We did entertain looking at some like alumni programs that are out there. They're quite costly, But we're trying to figure out how can we build a database? How can we put something together that gives us the ability to kind of reach to different groups? We started looking a little bit, Janelle is kind of an expert, I think, on the volunteer tracking thing that we have going on right now, along with Trudy. But it's something that we've talked about and said, hey, there might be some components in there because there's things where you can put people into groups. So they go in and they jump in and they sign up as a volunteer, but they could say, I'm interested in band, or I'm interested in youth sports, or I'm interested, well, now we have a group maybe, and we can start talking to some of those groups a little bit. So that might help us out a little. But that's kind of what we're doing. And I had a gentleman, longtime educator in the district, pretty wise man, that told me, you know, what you gotta do is, you gotta tell them what you're gonna tell them, then you gotta tell them, then you gotta tell them what you told them. Okay? And so that was our resident Youper that kind of told us that. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just make sure we just keep telling our story, telling our story. Our job is we've gotta keep on figuring out a way that we can get it to a different audience. So that's what we're working on. That's all I got. Maybe. Well, you might have to look at Ron for the rest of the
Any questions for Mark or the team? All right, thanks for the update. Next is our personnel report. We're looking to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Give a motion in a second. Anything you want to add to it?
Has somebody taken notes for Trudy?
Yep.
Nothing to add, no additional comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. August budget report, Jill?
You know, just what I had in the memo, the one thing I wanted to point out is that we had a new audit firm this year. We, signed up with them for the next 3 years. We had a great audit, lasted longer than typical because they had to learn all of our processes and, how to get our information. They're talking about next summer that they'll do a lot of it remotely because we give them access to our Skyward program, so we won't have to actually have them on site quite as much, maybe only a day. But being as they are a new audit firm, do you want them to come in, most likely it'll be in December, to present their audit report? In the past, we have not brought them in. It's whatever you wish, being as they're new, you may wanna bring them in, I'm fine either way.
Anybody want to hear from the audit firm?
I see no need.
The report is sufficient then.
All right.
Just no in-person presentation needed, but thank you for the offer.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
That's it.
Any questions? No. That brings us to item 7, Hillcrest Crosswalk update. Chris, is this yours or?
Yeah, this is mine. So I put a memo on box, just kind of explaining the process of what has happened since last, probably December. Beck and I we're meeting with a parent, kind of working with the Village of Hobart Public Works Committee, to kind of talk about adding a crosswalk, across from Hillcrest. There's a visual or a map on box that kind of shows you what that crosswalk looks like. Public Works wanted some feedback and some input from parents, so we did do a survey last spring during conference time and received some of their feedback. Really, where we're at is the last Public Works Committee meeting, the Village of Hobart wasn't willing or not wanting to move forward until they knew the position of the school board and if the school board would be in support of the project and moving forward. So I don't know if there's specific questions regarding the project.
Can I add a little bit?
Sure you can.
Yes, or if I can add.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't know what the support meant, because unless I missed it in the memos, I didn't know if we were being asked to fund it or.
Well, yes.
Okay.
And so that's right. Just happened we were there, when Nick and I were there, then we talked to Aaron, who's the village administrator for Hobart, I think his first name's Aaron, right? Kramer. And we ended up, we really didn't go there to talk about this, but anyway. I want to back up though. When I first went out to Hillcrest this summer and saw the speed with the vehicles go by that road, I thought we can't have a school. How do kids cross on, and when I didn't know anything, when I didn't realize no one crossed the road because of the dangerous situation there. So, to me, this is like, I just want to tell you, for me, this is like priority number 1. I just, whatever the board decides, but I can't think of a safety issue that I see around the district that needs to be addressed more than this right now. So I think a crosswalk is a great start. I think, you know, if we can work with the county and possibly reducing the speed in that road would really help too in time, but that's another thing. Aaron, I think what they want is just, yes, will the board support it? There's a couple different numbers in there. You know, one's like the Cadillac version, I think it's like, Nick can help me out here, is that about 50,000? Somewhere around, that's not really what we're looking for. Basically, and we have to also figure out whose property is whose property. It sounded like they would help pay for some of the things, including the crosswalk itself, including the things, what do you call it?
The culvert,
Yep.
ditch.
Yep. We would have to do the we'll definitely have to be at the sidewalk then that leads to the parking lot. And I don't know if we have a design, but you know, from that culvert, from that gravel.
7D shows the sidewalk.
Yeah. You know, and they may not be exactly that design, but eventually that's what we'll have is straight across from that road from there. You know, what I think they're looking for is, yes, you'll commit without necessarily saying we'll commit $10,000 to donate to that project. I don't know if we're ready for that, but if you commit to it, we will find the money for it. Jill's been out there, Nick's been out there, we went out there with Chris, we've been out there. There's no doubt this needs to be done. Now, it's not gonna be a $100,000 project, and it won't even be a $50,000 project. But I guess we don't have a number till you guys get it, then we go back to their board, and their board says, yes, we'll do it, then there'll have to be some negotiation about whose property is whose property, then who's gonna pay for culvert, who's gonna pay for some of the gravel. You know, like I said, anything in our property is gonna be 100% ours. But they're certainly willing and understand, and I don't think there'll be, at least my talk, Chris knows a lot better than I do, because she's been involved with this a lot longer, that this will go as long as we get your approval. So I guess, without giving you exactly, Michael, you know, we want for this amount of dollar, we are looking for the board to give approval.
I haven't been to the school during, you know, morning hours, whatever, but, you know, if the main issue is the speed at which drivers are going, is this gonna address the issue? You know what I mean?
My concern exactly, so I've spent some time there. When they put the flyovers in, the traffic on Hillcrest picked up. Because everybody coming to the west side of Green Bay gets off there and comes through. So that traffic is, you've witnessed it, Chris.
Yep.
That stop sign that's a little further south on J and double F, I drive that every day. That stop sign gets blown, I see it get blown every day. And even tonight, I went and sat on Concord and school got out a little bit, because I'm actually in town. And ironically, as I was going through at 15 waiting to turn, the person was right on my butt. We need to turn this into Rosendale first. I would be remiss if we put a crosswalk in, assuming 9, 10-year-olds and under are gonna walk across, they're gonna have a false sense of security.
That was what I was wondering.
And nobody comes off the gas there. The only people coming off the gas are the people turning in. And enforcement matters, and I was at the village board meeting last night, and we talked about lowering the speed on Trout Creek, same thing where they're putting new development in. There isn't a propensity to increase enforcement today. And I don't know how often squads sit there today, Chris?
Not very often.
And I mean, you have to turn it into Rosendale where people know I can't speed. My recommendation as a resident being around that area is not to give the kids a false sense of security. Cause they're just gonna push the button, lights are gonna come on, they're gonna walk out and they're gonna get shrugged.
And I understand that. As I said, the speed blows me away too. They can't do anything about the speed. It's the county. Because the county has to.
Yeah, it's a county road, but again, I'm really so.
But I'm wondering if the board here supports that, and we would not move forward, Mark, until, if that would go in some kind of motion, and I'm not telling you what to do, I hear your concern. But I think we can't get the wheels going and doing anything until we get a unified front that the board would support that if speed was reduced. And again, I'm not saying we'd send an 8-year-old across on himself. Possibly, you still want parents possibly gonna get a guard out there. I mean, there would be other things in place, but right now, we want kids to either bike or walk to school and there's a lot of residents where I saw, there's a lot of people on that side who can't do any of those things. And so, I guess I would really, again, not trying to play my role here is I get all that. But I think if we get some support from the board, we can get the wheels rolling, and we wouldn't do it until you yourself and the rest of the board were satisfied that we did our due diligence and got that speed reduced, besides putting that in. And enforcement is another thing.
I noticed a lot of comments about whether it would affect, it'd still be a dangerous intersection when it comes to consideration for busing. That it wouldn't say, now we have a crosswalk, now these certain kids can't get a bus over there anymore. That was, I noticed that in some of the questions, and I'd have to hear that answer.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, right now, all of our students are assigned a bus stop because we don't allow students to walk to
cross
school
there,
or
right.
or ride their bike.
So
I
would it
assume
affect
that-
the law that says if they can safely get to school walking a quarter mile, they can walk, no busing? And the state won't pay for it.
Yeah, I haven't had that conversation with Tracy, so I'm not sure.
I think we need to, I'm all for something out there, but I think we really need to investigate some of this. And the speed is a huge problem.
I would wanna go back and see traffic study, car counts, and some kind of
Petition the county
monitoring.
and get us, you know,
Yeah.
They did,
A joint front?
They did conduct a speed study, last spring. What it looked like and overall is people weren't speeding. I mean, the speed limit's 45, so they're not going, a whole lot faster than 45. But it even showed that even during the hour that school starts and the hour that school stops, they're still going 45.
Mhm,
So they're
that's
not
right.
slowing down.
Right, they're not doing that.
They're not following that 15 mile an hour speed zone.
And I wouldn't go for anything less than the big flashing lights, not just the cone you sit out in the middle of the road to get run over with the person standing there.
Do we know if Village of Hobart has long-term plans for this whole area? Because I see this as just one piece of the puzzle. You put a crossing there, there's still factors that people are not gonna cross there. Double F's not, I wouldn't want any of my kids walking down that road or biking down that road. And there's more, this is one piece of the puzzle, there's more accommodations that need to come with sidewalks and directing people to go where they need to go.
we didn't talk about sidewalks for whole Hobart, because I'm sure they don't wanna bring that up, because they would get, they would have 1,000 people at their board meeting. We did talk about sidewalks along that road. The problem is the ditch falls off into that, it's almost a creek, not really a ditch. And so the cost of fill and can they do it, and there were some other issues here and brought up about that. My only concern with putting it off, and again, but I'm just gonna play my part here, is if you guys put this off tonight and don't do anything, they're not gonna do anything, and we're gonna keep bouncing back and forth, and that's my concern. The only alternative I was thinking in my brain right now is if we could put a meeting together with the Hobart Village Board, you guys, to try to get the county there at one time, at least representatives of it, and do something, but maybe that's been done already, I don't know the full history here. But I'm afraid if you guys say nothing, we go back then, well, the board won't approve this because of all these reasons, they're gonna say, well, we're not moving ahead because the school board doesn't really want this anyway, and we're not gonna make any progress.
But I think the message to convey to them is not that we don't want it, it's that we're not sure it's gonna be effective, and we don't wanna put into Mark's point, a solution that creates problems,
More
either false
problems.
insecurity or messes up our busing situation. So we need a lot more information before we can, in my opinion, before we can give any sort of go forward approval to this.
I think that busing thing is real important, because it seemed real important to families that they didn't wanna lose their bus.
That was something on the survey.
Yeah, and there was more than like 5 or 6 that mentioned it.
One thing I wanna check, Barb, with your have to by law, because again, all I can go is my past history. We picked up kids right across the road, 4-year-olds, and there were safe places to cross in Denmark. So I don't know that, I don't wanna tell you you're wrong, I just know that we in Denmark, we picked up kids right across the road.
I just think we should at least look into it.
So, I guess I'm not as concerned about that we still wouldn't pick up kids.
I know in Illinois, we pick up kids right across the road, but there's no safe place to cross.
I think what you're thinking, Barb, with that is, it's called a hazard area, and when it's designated as a hazard area, then we get, transportation aid, even though it's
Right.
less than 2 miles, but it's still up to the school district's
Well, I
discretion
know,
if they wanna pay.
but I just,
And
that's
pay-
why I
and
said,
submit those miles, right? We
without
can still
losing
submit those
funding
miles.
is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Right, okay. So if I'm hearing right, so we have some direction to go on. Before you'll do anything, oh,
So I'm part of the CPA meeting, in Hobart, and we had a presentation from Brown County. One thing we have to consider is they're going to, it's gonna be part of a bigger project. If we wanna work with them now in that area, it's gonna save us money, if not barely, we're not gonna have to put in tons of money. So I think that's the missing piece that you're thinking of. And this is just the preliminary start of the talks and everything. It has to go through approval from the village, and then the school board and that can meet or whatever. I think this is just a preliminary, hey, they wanna go and look at it, and then they can come back with figures. That's and I'm all for it.
Well, I'd make a motion to be involved in discussions and looking into it.
Say more on the bigger project, I guess, what's the scope?
Just a second, but we have a motion on the floor from Barb, is there a second to that motion? No
The
second to motion.
Second to be part of the.
It's part of further discussion, yeah.
What's that really entail?
We just have to have there's no discussion on that until we get a second. For lack of a second, the motion fails. What's where were we at? You were talking about the CBA and you had a question.
But no, you said it's part of, this is the start of something bigger?
Like what you guys are all talking about. This is the start of something, you know what I mean? It's one piece of it.
But is there a proposed I guess I'm missing, is there a proposed project out there, a proposed program for the county highway, or is there something?
Discussion by the county?
Or just,
Accounting for connecting to like Howard and Ashwaubenon, doing a joint project with them. But then that'd probably be a good idea to talk to, like you guys were saying, you wanna hear from Brown County, they had come in.
Can I interject? I'm gonna make a suggestion from a scheduling standpoint. This is literally the first time that this has shown up on the board agenda.
Mhm.
And we've got a ton of questions about it. And we're also supposed to be starting the annual meeting very shortly, so can we bring this back in October? With more information on, can we compile stuff on the busing question? Can we get more information on the CBA? Because I don't know any of this, and none of this is in the documentation that's provided us. So in my opinion, we don't have enough information to even consider this question.
Well, I apologize, because the notes I read, I thought this was brought up
Did you look at
previously.
this before?
And so,
From my
I didn't think this was
understanding,
the very first time you were
Beck
hearing
had
this.
shared it just in her superintendent's update, I think a couple times last year,
But
but that was where it was.
just as a mention, we're looking
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah.
okay.
I thought it was part of the law.
Is it something that we need to look at before our next meeting?
I don't know what the timing of it is.
Well, all I can't answer that, only because they will not move on it until we do. So I'll have to I hear you're not ready, that's perfectly okay. We're gonna work on this with the county and speed, we'll go back to them again, talk about some of your concerns, see if I can provide some more information for next time. I'm apologizing, because I thought I was bringing up something that was close to, not finalized, but that you guys had background information ready, and this was kind of the point we were, not maybe ready to move, because we weren't ready to move, but just saying, yeah, we need to be done to. So, my apologies, maybe I should have done a little bit more.
And since I'm on the CDA committee, I'll talk to you afterwards and get more information for the next meeting.
We have to make a motion to postpone.
I don't know what the tabling is not the right word, but we could call it that.
Make a motion to postpone this to the October meeting with further information.
Yes.
Second.
And that'll, my opinion, that will give something on record to show the village that we're still actively looking.
That we
at this.
didn't say no.
Any other discussion on that particular motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any additional discussion on item 7? All right, we should be able to get through 8 and 9 reasonably quickly.
Make a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip. I read your mind, Michael.
We have a motion and a second to approve 2 field trips. Do we have anybody here that is looking to present any additional information? I'm not sure if French. Nobody? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then we have a tool donation that we should that we should recognize, and we need a motion to approve that per policy.
Motion to accept the donation of the tools from NAPA for our tech ed program as presented.
Second.
Nobody got that? There is a document on box to that effect, is there anything that, the one that, sorry, my, having iPad issues here. Where did this come from?
Jeremy.
Jeremy,
Yeah.
anything to add?
Nope, we're thankful that Chuck came to us and shared the information with us, and they thought of us when they received these tools.
It's fantastic.
So, they'll be put to use.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Items for the next board meeting are on there, on the posted agenda, I believe, and we will add the sidewalk discussion. At this point, we're looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.